Recently, I watched a lecture in which a generic blonde woman is talking about labor law, and among that gibberish of hers, she came out with something like, "We need to change the world and we must improve society, and that's what we're doing." Well, I instantly recalled the works on Смешного человека, or Dream of a Ridiculous Man. This work was written by Dostoevsky some years before his death, and despite being one of the best works he ever wrote, it often doesn't get much attention. Well, I instantly thought of this work when I saw a woman talking about improving the world, because that's one of the main themes in Смешного человека. In reality, it's more common than you might think to come across people with that beautiful and pompous "let's save the world" discourse. The most recent generation, for example, is constantly parroting slogans about how we should improve the world. They even believe that student councils, a handful of protests, and lots of drugs are the perfect recipe for saving the world. But as for these people, there's not much to say. Honestly, it's even tiring to think about them. But what about the countless authors who always come up with elaborate theories on how to improve the world and somehow are still taken seriously by lots of people? From Marx to Rothbard, they all have an uncontrollable desire to find the fairest and most correct way of living life and thus making things better. And you might think, alright, what's the problem with wanting to improve the world, huh? Shouldn't we all be doing that? Well, yeah, but actually no. There is a terrible problem with that, and that's precisely what Dostoevsky illustrates with his work. So if you want to know what the heck is wrong with trying to improve the world, stick around till the end of this video. I generally want to know your opinion on this. But before we get to that question itself, let me summarize what happens in the book so you can get some context and understand how it relates to this matter. In the short story Dream of a Ridiculous Man, Dostoevsky presents a nihilistic character who refers to himself as Ridiculous Man. He constantly contemplates bringing himself into non-existence, if you know what I mean. Well, right at the beginning of the short story, the Ridiculous Man encounters a little girl seeking help for her mother in desperation. But he just shoves her away, realizing that he truly doesn't care about anything or anyone anymore. He then rushes back to his apartment to himself. He points a thing at himself, but ends up falling asleep. And yeah, the guy manages to sleep in this situation. Anyway, the important thing is that he has a revealing dream that would change him forever. In the dream, he is overcome by an unparalleled sadness. He sees a strange creature carrying him, so he asks where the earth is. The creature points to a distant dot, and that's when he realizes he is on another world. But he notices something very strange in the other world. There is no blemish or sin. Everyone lives in a state before evil, in a state of ignorance and pure goodness. The Ridiculous Man starts to love those people simply because they irradiate love. He can feel the harmony that emanates from them because everyone loves their neighbor unconditionally. The problem is that he starts corrupting them. Gradually, everyone begins to discover a love for deceit, discord, and death takes over everything. The Ridiculous Man is capable of destroying that unblemished world. And the reason for this is quite simple. He carries discord and disharmony within himself. When he sees everyone corrupted, tainted by evil and miserable, that's when he is most capable of loving them deeply, because he discovers compassion. It is at this moment that the Ridiculous Man wakes up from his dream. He realizes that he has discovered the truth. Everything becomes very clear.
Как мне не веровать? Я видел истину. Не то, что изобрел умом, а видел. Живой образ ее наполнил душу мою навеки.
Many Western people see various different things in the short story, and that's why you may find many elaborate interpretations in English, French, Italian, and so on. This is the evidence that these far-fetched and ridiculous interpretations are a purely Western phenomenon. You see, for Orthodox Christians, as well as for Russian revolutionary nihilists, for example, it's just crystal clear what the short story is about. The only difference between these groups is that they use a different type of discourse in order to describe the short story. For example, the Orthodox Christians will say that it is a short story that can summarize the importance of recognizing oneself as a sinner, and that we should fulfill what's in the book of St. Matthew, "Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself." On the other hand, the revolutionaries will certainly claim that it's just a religious book that preaches an invented morality. This is a book that serves to silence people through a Christian discourse. The point is, despite both groups disagreeing about the value of Dostoevsky's message, neither question that it is a short story written by a devout Orthodox believer, and that its message is in line with the Orthodox faith. Alright, now we know it's a short story written by a devout Orthodox Christian and of a fully religious nature, but then what the heck have Western authors said about this short story? Buckle up, because we are about to dive into a shitstorm. Ernest Simmons, a somewhat deranged author, wrote about various Russian authors such as Anton Chekhov, Lev Tolstoy, and of course Fyodor Mikhailovich Dostoevsky. Well, the guy had the audacity to claim that Dostoevsky envisioned a paradise on earth. In reality, he argued that Dostoevsky wasn't talking about the kingdom of heaven, and that it has nothing to do with anything like that, because in the end, Dostoevsky was thinking of a paradise right here on earth, some kind of utopian eudaimonia. But the award for the biggest retarded author goes to Edward Vasiluk. Seriously, this guy went off the deep end. It's impossible to take this guy seriously. He had the nerve to claim that The Ridiculous Man was a denial of immortality, meaning that The Ridiculous Man was an affirmation that nothing in the world makes sense, and precisely because of that, he creates meaning from nothingness. Check out what he wrote. It isn't his martyrdom to feel again and again his superiority in truth and everyone else's inferiority in falsehood. The Ridiculous Man has carried the blasphemy of truth to its highest point, the blasphemy of Christ. Man, I don't have much to say about these people. It's just really sad to see the Russian language being ostracized in the West. It's quite sad to see such bizarre ideas being propagated as if they were the zenith of intellectualism. But just so it doesn't go unnoticed, let me quickly quote some passages written by Dostoevsky. The most amazing miracle of our planet, its eternal meaning, its eternal joy, its eternal consolation is the face of Christ, lost in the West, which in all the light of its purity has been preserved in orthodoxy. We preserve the image of Christ and it will shine like a precious diamond to the whole world. We bring to the world only what we can give it, and at the same time what it only needs, orthodoxy, true and strong, the eternal confession of Christ in complete moral renewal. Elijah and Enoch will come from us to fight against the Antichrist, the spirit of the West, embodied in the West. So, yeah, I think that's clear enough. Let's just move on. Back to the beginning. What the heck is wrong with trying to improve the world, and how does it relate to the short story about The Ridiculous Man? Well, first of all, Dostoevsky always recognized the danger in the feverish attempt to improve the world. You see, he did not believe that we humans are inherently evil, but rather that we are fragmented, confused, too complex. When the Ridiculous Man realizes that he is the one who corrupted the sinless world, that's when all the pieces fall into place and everything makes sense. He was the problem, not the world. He was the one actively turning the world into something bad, sick, and so on. And upon realizing that, he declared that he would live to preach the truth, a living truth, even if people could simply laugh at him and claim that his dream was in fact just madness. Alright, but then some questions may arise. The first one might be, what is this truth? Christ. The truth the Ridiculous Man speaks of is the Son of God. It is the truth of God's commandment to love one another unconditionally. The second question might be, why then should we not try to improve the world? This is perhaps the crux of the matter. It's not that we shouldn't try to improve the world. The thing is, we should first and foremost recognize ourselves as flawed and problematic individuals. The answer to this problem is extremely simple. Do not try to save the world if you cannot even deal with your own sadness. Do not attempt to find a solution to the world's pains if you cannot even decide what your gender and pronouns will be tomorrow. You are the problem, not the world. You need to heal yourself, not the world. We all have significant problems. We are not ready to look outward and try to figure out how to fix everything. We have to look within ourselves and recognize that we individually are the reason why this world is the way it is. The final question has to be, what is the problem with men after all? Well, Alexander Solzhenitsyn might answer that for you. We have placed too much hope in political and social reforms, only to find out that we were being deprived of our most precious possession, our spiritual life. What's up, guys? I'm just dropping in at the end of this video to remind you that it's very important for you to like the video, comment on what you thought, and also share the video with your friends. I suppose you all know it's quite challenging to start a channel from scratch, so yeah, I'm counting on your support. Thank you very much everyone for watching this video, and until next time.